I will start this second session by handing over straight away to Tim Hartley, who is a well-known figure, isn't he, in journalism, broadcasting, football, and no one better, really, to get to chair this first panel, which focuses on language use in football clubs. So I'll hand over straight to Tim, and I look forward to this first panel. Thank you very much, Ellen, and to Craig, and everyone who has organised this. It's extremely important, I think, that you do see how minoritized language or lesser used languages are used in football.
Presentation. I've had two requests, one from Australia, from a guy called Andy Bell, you may know, who works for ABC. He's interested in lesser used languages. And a guy from Cardiff City, a fellow fan, who said, I'd like to see that research done on our club. I shan't tell you what he thinks of the Welsh language provision at the moment at Cardiff City, but I would be interested in what Ian Johnson and the Bohr brothers think about it as well. And just a quick anecdote before we start, and I'm so glad that twice we've heard already the use of the word, the normalisation of the use of language. Back in the 1970s, I was a lot younger than I am now, and if someone heard me speaking Welsh in Cardiff or down the city or down the rugby where I used to go to, the response you'd get normally would be, what's that? What you speaking like that for? Roll on 25 years, my son grew up in the family stand in Cardiff City. Somehow or other, Welsh-speaking family, one or two or three of us congregated together. Spoke Welsh naturally, all the way up like that. The response then was, isn't that lovely? Do you know what? Wish I'd learned it in school. There'd been some kind of sea change, and however fantastic the changes we hear from authorities, from football clubs, and the remarkable work of the Football Association of Wales, let's not forget that these things were happening then at the same time. And I sometimes think that the football clubs and associations are behind the zeitgeist. This stuff is happening actually anyhow, but we do need their support. We do need their support. And this, in a sense, Craig, will be our deep dive into 3 football clubs and what they're doing and who's actually doing it for them. Really interesting panel. Maria de Lluc Muñoz Canyelles is head of international affairs at Plataforma per la Llengua, which defends and promotes the Catalan language all over the Catalan-speaking territories at Spain, France, Andorra, and Italy. A lifelong football fan, she supported FC Barcelona and C Athletic Balears since birth. As a child, she played for her local team, though she says, without much success. I can sympathise with you there. Dr. Mirjam Vellinga is Vice President of the European Language Equality Network and Head of the Language Promotion Division at Afûk, the organisation of Friesland that promotes the language and culture. She has initiated and developed the successful language promotion Prat Mar Frusc, probably got that wrong, and is also involved in other Frisian projects in the private and public sector. She is, of course, a supporter of FC Heerenveen. Hugh Birkhead is the Welsh language tutor at Wrexham Association Football Club, funded by the National Centre for Learning Welsh. He's responsible for teaching Welsh to staff, players and fans, and for increasing the profile of the Welsh language throughout the club. Growing up, Hugh was a season ticket holder at Wrexham AFC, attending games with his father. He's a keen footballer and is fulfilling his dream of working at Wrexham. Let's give him a little welcome. Let's start, shall we, in Catalonia. Maria de Lluc, you've worked really hard with the Youth Academy, and it's interesting to see, if you like, an initiative coming from the club. Interesting to see that, the fan-based stuff and the club-based stuff. Tell us a little bit about what you do with the Youth Academy at Barcelona.
Yeah, well, as you said, I work for an NGO promoting the Catalan language, and we thought it was really important to work from below. Like the players that will be the future players of the first team. And it was important that they felt Catalan as their own language and the language that they could use within the team. So we started a program, a training program for especially staff members, so they could be conscious of the importance of speaking Catalan to the players and between the staff also, so the Catalan will be the normal working language of the club.
It's interesting in the Welsh context, this business about the language and national identity and understanding. How tied is the Catalan in your football club to a sense of national identity? I guess I'm trying to see whether it's politicised or depoliticised.
Yeah, well, Catalan is a core identity of what the club is. We believe that as Barça being a very well-known club, it acts as an ambassador for our language and explaining how important the language is for our identity. And actually, in the same status of the Barcelona, it says that the official language of the club is Catalan, and as such, it is used normally and preferentially in all club activities. And this was added in 2009, I believe, but the language has been the working language of the club since 1916, where the first official document of the club was written in Catalan. So it is a really important part of what the club is. And the motto of the club is that they are more than a club. So this ties with being an advocate for the language.
Hugh, you at Wrexham, you teach the women's team and the staff there at Wrexham. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that has come to pass, if you like? It's the first time I've sort of seen that a club has actually got someone in and said, yeah, we really do need to get these people speaking Welsh. Why do you think that happened? And tell us a little bit about your role.
Well, I think Wrexham have been very lucky over the last few years. We've had a big change in ownership, as people might know, and we've now got a huge fan base, international fan base, and they've really made an effort to make sure the roots of the club are obvious, so the language, the culture and the history of us in Wales. We're a Welsh club and want to show that we're proud of that. So quite similarly, it's behind the scenes work maybe. I'm teaching the staff behind the scenes, and hopefully it's something that will grow naturally and become more of a natural thing that the Welsh is used in the club's communication and things like that. So my role, I'm teaching the staff, so frontline staff, shop staff, the media team, people like that, but also, like you said, the women's team. I've had good access to the girls there, so there are some Welsh speakers within the women's team already, and I think that's a big help. Men's team, got players from England, Ireland. There's one Welsh player at the moment, so we'll have some more Welsh players. So with the women's team, there's already a bit of a culture of the Welsh language, and it's spreading. They want to learn. The manager's really doing well with lessons with myself. Their games are shown on Sgôr quite often, so they'd like to be able to hold interviews in Welsh and show that they're part of that. Yeah.
Because you mentioned that there's one Welsh player in the men's senior team, yeah?
Yes.
How does it go down then? Do they get it? I can understand in the Catalan because it defines you. It defines us as Welsh as well, I suppose. But is there any sort of pushback for it? They say, well, hang on, what are we doing this for? Why do we need to do this? We're a football club in the English League.
Well, to be honest, it's work in progress with the men's team. I've been there for a year now, so it's slow. Having, I guess, I don't know if access is the best word, but access to the men's team. They've done a couple of short social media clips where I've taught a couple of little taster lessons, and they've been really positive about it. They've enjoyed it. They've really taken part and bought into it. It's hopefully something that's going to be developed, and I think it's a really important thing to just raise awareness. It's the awareness of our Welsh language and the culture that we need to work on first.
I mean, I'd say yours would be a model for other clubs to take in, that you've almost got, you've got your full-time Welsh teacher there. And I was really pleased when that Welcome to Wrexham series, I think it was the 3rd or 4th programme, it was like about the Welsh language. And I thought, this is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Would this happen? Would you be here? Would you be doing this if it weren't for Rob and Ryan, the 2 Hollywood stars who bought the Wrexham club?
I'd hope so, yes. So I'd hope so. So the partnership between the National Centre for Learning Welsh and the club happened, a year and a half ago. And I think it was both seeing the opportunity, the National Centre seeing the opportunity for the club to take advantage of the situation and progress from what Rob and Ryan had already started in a way.
Mirjam, in your situation, in the Frisian language, do you have this, you know, the earth, you look around here, it's all about learning Welsh, it's about new learners. Do you have a similar issue with us? Like, actually, I shouldn't say that because Catalan, I think, is almost sort of majoritarian. Numbers?
Not really right now, but we're trying.
We try. Tell us about the situation with Heerenveen particularly, but with the Frisian language generally.
Yeah, well, the Frisian language is quite strong orally, so it's more than 50% of inhabitants of Friesland that speak Frisian as their first language. And then in most rural areas, that percentage is around 70–80%. So it's spoken quite a lot. And that's, I think, why, for example, at SC Heerenveen, the language use hasn't been that formalized because it's just used very naturally in a natural way. But of course, at a football club, SC Heerenveen is the only Frisian football club at the Premier League. I think we have one Frisian-speaking player at the moment, but the staff around the football club, most of them are Frisian speakers as well. But we are not used at seeing the Frisian language written. So I have learned to write Frisian a little bit, but since I'm working for Afûk, I know write it quite a lot. But that's not a normal situation in Friesland for people to know how to write their own language.
What's the ethos at the club, though? Is it pro-Frisian, or is it, well, okay, you do that, it's an oral tradition, it's something you just keep to the family, you don't need to be public about it?
It's very pro-Frisian. I think SC Heerenveen has a very Frisian identity, and they use, like, you have the dragon for Wales. We have what most people think is a heart, but it's actually a water lily leaf, but it's red. So it's a very sympathetic symbol, and everyone in the Netherlands at least knows when they see that symbol, oh, that's Frisian, that's Friesland. At the start of every home game, the Frisian anthem is sung officially. So also the players from the other team are more or less forced to stand and listen to it. And it's the only club that does that in the Netherlands, to have their own kind of official start of the game with the Frisian anthem. And it's also projected into the text is projected in the stadium as well, so everyone can sing along. And I think not anymore, but about 20 years ago, when SC Heerenveen was very successful, and I think it's not a coincidence, we had a Frisian-speaking trainer and a Frisian-speaking president of the club. And I jokingly say, well, and when they left, the club's results also went down. But anyway, so the icons of the club also still are Frisian-speaking people. But now the coaches and staff, they are more Dutch-speaking, yeah.
On a practical level, this is for all three of you, how important is it that you've got that kind of champion, that there's one person who says, we're going to do this, we're going for it, and without that leadership, if you like, the whole thing sort of peters out. Have you got a champion in Barcelona, in the club, or you know, in government? It seems you've got a stronger emphasis on it than anywhere else here.
Yeah, I believe it is important to have a role model that could like really inspire. Like, for example, the first time that something was written in Catalan, it was because the recently elected president said, why aren't we doing this in Catalan? and they just started doing it because it felt normal. And I think we use what the team is doing or what the player is doing as a show how society could be. Like one of our best players right now, he's from Moroccan descent, and he is a great Catalan speaker. He's been in Catalan school, which tries for everyone that goes to Catalan school to be a perfect Catalan speaker. And I think it's good for people to see that it doesn't matter where your parents are from or like the color of your skin. You can be a Catalan speaker and feel part of what being Catalan means. And this we use the language to send this message, and having someone with this voice or this big place to say it from, it's really important.
I mean, we say the Welsh language belongs to everybody, even if you don't speak it. And I think that's probably the same for you guys. But in Wrexham, have you got an ambassador, someone who's kind of leading from the front? Either, I say leading from the front, you don't have to lead from the front by being in front, you know, behind the scenes, that this is the woman or the man who's driving this. And do you need that? Do you need that one champion within the club?
I don't know if I say there's one. I've been lucky that the CEO, he's asked for lessons on the history and culture of Wales, maybe not so much, and the language as well, but he set the standard. I've got the head of the foundation, he's having lessons. I've got staff in most different parts of the club. So everyone's seeing that these people are having lessons and taking part and taking an interest in seeing that it's something important for us. As maybe an ambassador, someone who's doing well, the women's team manager, he's doing an amazing job, and I'm hoping that he'll do an interview. I put him on the spot now saying this, but I'm hoping he'll do an interview in Welsh soon on Sgôr, and having him maybe having clips on social media, the girls in the team seeing him have progressed. He's a guy from Warrington. He's never spoken Welsh before. Now he's reeling off interview questions and interview answers in Welsh. So yeah, I think having buy-in from a lot of different people within the club and high-profile people within the club helps. Yeah, and it peters down, and everyone wants to get involved, really.
I think in the professional game, this is really important. I mean, I'm going back with Wales for years. Everyone knew that Aaron Ramsey went to a Welsh school, and yet we'd never heard him speak Welsh. When he did start tweeting in Welsh, everyone went, "Oh, wow, this is fantastic." There was a little bit of backlash, as you'd expect. Now his wife's got a cookery show on S4C, and it creates that. Yeah, you know the celebrity stuff. We can do it in Welsh too. We've got our own people, so I think it's really important. I'm going to get onto social media in a minute, but I want to talk about visibility, because the visibility of the language came up in Craig's analysis. It was one of his measures. And Mirjam, even though it's not well known as a written language, how visible would Frisian be within the club?
Well, it is not formally very visual, but you know, the supporters club and the fan club, they have a big banner every game in Frisian supporting one specific player every time, and it's in Frisian. It's huge. Of course, the Frisian anthem, the text in the stadium and also in the premises, there's lots of Frisian texts visible, also on the merchandise, and it's so it's around in the club, and also in the field, because we have a new sponsor. You talked about ambassadors, and now I think maybe the sponsor is a new ambassador. It's a collective of different companies, educational organizations and governments in Friesland decided to become sponsor of the club. And they are called Welkom, which means welcome in Frisian. So the players have huge Welkom on their t-shirts. So it's a Frisian everywhere on the field as well. And also the stadium itself has a Frisian name. It's from a Frisian football player, Abel Enstra. So that's also very Frisian. So it is quite a Frisian language environment. And I noticed when I did some research on social media, one picture of the fan base where they have like a Pepsi stand. And a couple of months ago, it said food and drinks. And then I looked at a new picture and it said eten en drinken, which is Frisian for food and drink. So that changed within a couple of months. I think after that sponsor was also in place with the Frisian name and also with the idea of promoting the Frisian identity, focusing on health and well-being and sustainability. Those are the themes of the sponsor of the club as well. So very different than just a very commercial kind of head sponsor.
Interesting, because I think Ivor Williams Trailers did or do sponsor Wrexham Football Club. If you remember, Rob O'Ryan actually said, Ivor Williams Trailers, get your Ivor Williams Trailers. So I'm just wondering whether to push this agenda, you need to get the sponsors to say, do you know what, we really like this. It gives us a unique selling proposition.
Ivor Williams are kind of still with us, but I'm not sure in what capacity now. But yes, I'd agree that it's something unique, isn't it, for an EFL team, a team in the English League. Yeah, definitely to have the Welsh language. Part of my role is also to promote the Welsh language around the club, so I'm hoping that it is more visible now. So it wasn't me that came with the name of the stadium, but Stock Ras is being used more and more, and obviously the sponsor Stock is in there as well. So Stock Ras, people are using that more often than the racecourse now. The signage around the ground is slowly changing to bilingual. Most of it is. They've opened a new fan zone now, which is part of a Saturday match day, and we have signage in there to help people learn Welsh. So if you go to order a drink, hopefully the signage is there for the English and the Welsh terms for things. Working hard to have some Welsh content. I know you're going to ask about social media, but on social media, match reports, things like that in Welsh now, podcasts, the programme, there's a part in the programme that's in the Welsh language as well. So yeah, people are really taking it on board, and in the shop, they try and have some merchandise that has Welsh language on it as well. So yeah, I feel that there's it's quite visible now at the club.
Some of this stuff about visibility, it's not that hard. I was over for the under-19s in Cyprus last year in the tournament. Yeah, under-19s, and in this bar, they had beer, wine, coffee, whatever, in English and in Greek, and I just thought that is so simple. You know, that is really easy win. You know, Mirjam, look, you know, Mesque and Clwb. I guess it's easy for you guys, isn't it, to have visibility? Because you'd get it, would you, in Catalan or in Castellano?
Yeah, well, I guess our situation is a little different. That's why I talked to Craig about maybe talking a little bit or looking in other clubs, because in the first Spanish league, there's 6 clubs that are from Catalan-speaking territories. And of course, you know Barcelona because it's huge and it's had a lot of wins over the years. But there are other clubs, like smaller clubs like Girona, which just recently started being in a first A level. And they also have Catalan as the part of their identity, and they are becoming a really good role model because, for example, their coach is from Madrid, and for the first day he decided that he wanted to learn Catalan and do all the press conferences in Catalan, and it's really good that this is happening. We hope Hansi Flick starts doing his press conferences in Catalan too someday. But it's good that other clubs are also having Catalan as the part of their identity.
Okay, well, let's get on to social media, because that came out in Craig's analysis, which I think was quite interesting. And I did some homework on my own club, Cardiff City, yesterday. On their X accounts, Cardiff City Football Club, Cardiff City Supporters Liaison Officer, Cardiff City's Charitable Foundation, not one word of Welsh. Interesting, isn't it, for the capital city of Wales? And I did say, you know, one of the texts I had about Craig's presentation was, you know, it's not very good at our club, Tim, is it? So, how good is your club with using Frisian in social media?
Not that great. But I noticed the difference since the new sponsor, because there's a new kind of social media strategy linked to that as well. I have some pictures. I'm not sure if we can show them on the screen for my presentation. But
If we can, we will.
yeah,
Yep.
so you can skip this one. It's just a nice illustration. And you can skip this as well. Well, this is the bus. The T-shirts in Frisian, yeah. This is the social media kind of strategy. So what they do is they have these pictures and they say "Tige dank," which means thank you to the specific football player that scored a goal or is leaving or has done something special. And this is one for the sponsor, the fans who passed away last year, and it says forever on our side, so voor altijd bij ons. So they started to use Frisian more in this kind of way. It's like, I wouldn't say marketing, but it's giving it a special feel, and it speaks directly to the players and to the audience as well. And I noticed also in social media, maybe you can, that they use the language when they speak directly to the fans. So all the formal kind of information is usually in Dutch, but to thank the supporters, it's done in Frisian. So in that way, Frisian is used more than, I think, than a year ago. And I think the name of the sponsor more or less made sure that marketing at the social media content people at SC Heerenveen also thought, oh, okay, so we can use Frisian also as a language on social media. Yeah.
Do you use both languages in Barcelona?
Actually, it's funny because the main channel of Barcelona uses English as the language of communication. And it's the thing that aspired to the internationality of fans all over the world. And this is a part of the club that we are critical with. I mean, we as language activists and NGOs, because when you want to find clubs posts in Catalan, you have to go to other accounts that, like, there's the main account, and then they have accounts in other languages, and they have an account for in Twix in Catalan specifically. And well, Barca has 65 active social media accounts, and they do use Catalan in all of them, but as the mottos, that's saying "Més que un club" or in post, or thank you and stuff like that. But if you want to find the accounts that are only in Catalan, they're like specific accounts with less followers that are in Catalan. And I think there's a lot of different models of doing this. I looked a little bit into other Catalan-speaking clubs, and the ones in Valencia, they also have this model that they have a main account where tweets are mainly in Spanish, and then they have an account and tweets in Valencian Catalan, and they use Catalan with the main accounts as kind of a folkloristic thing, kind of the typical phrases, more like a little folkloric identity. And this, and for other teams like L'Espanyol or Mallorca, which have just one account, and they like kind of mix languages depending on the context, and if they're referring to the fans, or, and in the case of Espanyol, it's more Catalan, but in the case of Mallorca, they also have this folkloristic use of the language. And then, of course, Girona is a special case because their main account is always in Catalan, but then they have a separate small account for tweets only in Castilian, which is kind of a different way to act, and everyone has the different marketing strategies of some sort, yeah.
How about in Wrexham then? You mentioned there's a page in the programme, you know, it seems visibly more Welsh language, and on social media, do you have to do it?
Depending who's doing the posting, if I'm about, but So there's two real main accounts. There's the foundation account that they do really try and put bilingual posts up. So the message will be in, I try and get Welsh first and then English. And then there's the main club account. And I guess quite similarly, I think it's incidental Welsh that's used most of the time. So it's bore da, pnawn da, nos da. They do try and use a cochion instead of the reds. And I guess it depends on who's creating the post and if I'm there to give them a nudge to try and get some Welsh in there. But yeah, it's the incidental Welsh more often than not on the main club account rather than good quality Welsh content, I guess. Yeah.
I think where I'm trying to go with this is, you know, is it incidental? Is it an add-on? It's not central somehow. You're saying, if I'm around, I'll have to do it. You know, does the club say, we want to do this, we're not doing enough, but we'd like to? Or is it you guys who are saying, hey, you know, we should have it, 1 in every 3 tweets should be this?
Yeah, well, I wanted to add that I forgot earlier. This is the case of the men's team. For example, in Barcelona, women's team, in all accounts, you can see way more Catalan, and it's the main language for the women's team, which is kind of curious. And there are also a lot of women players that have Catalan as their own languages. We see the Etana Bonmatí, which is the best player in the world, that did her acceptance speech of the Ballon d'Or in Catalan, and using this platform to also advocate for her language. And we kind of like call the club to correct this, like, why is Catalan being used only in the women team all the time? And yeah, it's, I think we don't have a lot to complain about. You would say like, oh, you're doing really good, but we think that the main account should be in Catalan, especially if it's in the statutes of the club and it's part, if they want to say that it's part of their identity. Yeah.
Let's take a quick journey north to Andorra, because what's happening in Andorra, sorry. Well, we did, didn't we? When we played Andorra, a lot of us drove up from Barcelona. I don't know if you've ever done that drive, but you see pit wheels and you go, no. I'm not back in South Wales now. You didn't realise they had coal mines up in Catalonia. But once you get to Andorra, they've got a very different approach to things in terms of the use of language in football, have they not?
Yeah, I wanted to mention this because it's really recent. Well, just last year, Andorra, the General Council passed a law called Official and Native Language. And just last week, the government approved a set of regulations that will be implementing the law. And one that has been called more attention from the public is that, especially in the world of sports, under this rule, players and coaches from organizations that receive government funding must give all media statements in Catalan always. And for those players who not speak the language, they are required to learn it if they want to renew their residence permits, which it's huge that a country is doing this. And it also will affect the professional FC Andorra team, because since it's such a small country, most of the players come from other parts of the world. So I think it's a really cool thing to have in account, and a government is doing this. So.
I think we need another conference on, you know, stick and carrot, you know, because you get, when they appoint people to big posh jobs in Wales, they say, and within 6 months you'll have learnt a little bit of Welsh, you know, and people go, oh, you can't do that, that's mean, you can't do it, he's got a job to do, he's running the police force or whatever. But really interesting that some countries are actually doing this.
Yep.
I want to talk about the influences on the clubs to try to make them do it, because you guys, I'm not saying don't want you here, but wouldn't it have been nice to have had someone who works directly to the club here talking about this? But it's not, is it? It's almost like the NGOs and the pressure groups and the learning societies, which are actually doing the pushing, are actually doing the job of the translation, the tweets and the program pieces. So tell us a little bit about project work and what you do in your different countries in terms of directly working with the club for the language.
Well, there's not that much to say because we don't do anything at the moment. we are thinking now to have a project on sports, and that all has to do with the natural position of the Frisian language within our kind of community and the normal use of the language orally anyway. But since things are shifting a little bit, we think we should do more also in sports and in communities. We have been in touch with FC Heerenveen, and sometimes they ask us for translations and that kind of stuff. But it's not that we working with them directly or helping them with their campaigns. They can do it themselves, so that's nice. We don't have to ask. So this is coming from the club itself. But I would love to have, like what you're doing, have a full-time Frisian teacher at the FC Heerenveen. That would be great. And to teach also the trainers and the coaches and the players. But I think the main focus should be on the staff, like that you are doing as well, because coaches and players are coming and going, and at a rate you can't keep up with it. So it's more important to have like Frisian speaking staff, and the audience is much more important, I think, than teaching the players Frisian. They should be aware. That's more important.
I think it's interesting, as what Ian Gwyn was saying, there's an awareness, and then you move it on from there. With Barcelona, do you have any particular projects, maybe youth orientated or health or education?
Yeah, it's kind of different because the club has like collaboration agreements with organizations to protect Catalan language, and they kind of profit of it for their image about Catalan defenders. It's funny because the club's main sponsor, as you may know, is Spotify. And the NGO, civil society, and government had been doing a lot of work for Spotify to be, you can have Spotify in Catalan now. And whenever we got it, the club was like, so our main sponsor has their website in Catalan. We did this. And we're like, okay, you really weren't the one doing it, but it's so great that you are like doing it, like asking people to change the language on their phones and put it in Catalan now, which is great. But I think a really important job from civil society organizations like ours is getting Barça involved in these things. For example, we've done a big campaign for Catalan to become an official EU language. And we got Barça involved, and the president made a video calling on the European Council to vote in favor of it. And it gave us a big platform to advocate for this, but it was us that asked them to be involved in this. Yeah.
Okay, I think we've got about 2 minutes left. I'm going to put you on the spot now. If there's one thing professional football clubs can and should do in circumstances like this, what should it be?
Well, I think, kind of going back to your question before, I think from my experience, if I wasn't provided as the resource that I am, I think Wrexham would go and would be doing it. I think they would. They've seen the importance. I think they would employ someone to teach and be part of a Welsh promotion and Welsh language. I don't know what the role would be, but officer, whatever that they need. Because I think that they do want to. It's just time and effort for people to learn the language and be able to use it confidently in their work. But I think that they would do it.
Thank you. Maradia, what do you think our main takeaway should be from this?
Well, I think it's a little complicated. I think the main takeaway should be that it is possible to get the clubs involved in more language activism stuff, and it's possible from governments to pass laws like Andorra's government. And I think for revitalization of our languages, everyone has to be involved. and from football clubs, from civil society, from institutions, and we have to use the platforms that we got for it.
Mirjam?
I think in the case of SC Heerenveen, the main thing that we need to do is make the club more aware of the role that they can play in making the Frisian identity and language stronger, but not only that what they can do for the language, but the language has a lot to offer to them as well, to make sure that they are more visible and more known, and they can make their identity as a football club also stronger. So, and hearing you guys speak about what you're doing is so inspiring. So I'm getting back to Friesland with loads of ideas and lots of work as well. So thank you.
So we need to keep the pressure on. We need to organise. We need ambassadors. We need the club on board and stick at it.
Yes.
Mirjam, Maria de Lluc and Hugh, diolch yn fawr iawn i chi. Fi wedi mwynhau'n arw iawn. Thank you very much.